What is up, my Squirtleites? It is I, your king, welcoming you to the March 2024 edition of Let's Talk. You know, I hate this time of year, and it's not really anything to do with the actual, weather or anything that's going on in the world or anything. Just this time of year, for some reason, always gets to me. And more specifically February, but kind of the, transition as winter sort of fizzles out. It always just has a really weird effect on me, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I get a form of seasonal depression, if that makes sense. I've struggled with depression all my life, but it usually is at its most pronounced around this time of year, just as winter is. It kind of hits that phase of, all right, I'm sick of this, let's move on. I want things to be green again. I want spring to come around. I want things to, feel better. I want the cold to go away. And it's ironic, too, because this has probably been the toastiest winter I can ever remember having. Thank you, climate change. And even still, this whole time of year has just been strange, incredibly strange. And even as I'm honestly in a really great place lately. Last couple of years, post-COVID, have honestly gone pretty darn well, aside from a couple setbacks here and there. And I have a lot of reasons to be happy, but it never fails, man. February rolls around, and I just kind of feel like garbage. I really do. And I'm starting to get a little bit better now. I think a lot of that is working my way out of the monotony, if that makes sense, and starting to try to switch up my routine and change the way I'm doing things. And the channel has a lot to do with that as well. This past month, February, was almost solely devoted to one thing and one thing only, and that was Animal Crossing. So I've talked about this Let's Play a lot and how I want to do this. And even with all of my plans in place, even with a perfectly, a well put together plan of action on how I wanted to make this Let's Play happen. And I'm not here to go oh yeah, this is getting canceled. No. New Horizons is absolutely happening. It is gone. In fact, exactly according to plan the entire way. I just had no idea how much work it was going to be, because not only have I had to record an insane amount, and I think I've recorded something like 30 plus episodes, which is a lot, because this is a Let's Play that you guys are going to be getting weekly, and many of these episodes are in the 40 to 45 to even 50-minute range. So it's been a lot of work just getting those 30 episodes done. But it's not just that. It's the fact that Animal Crossing is, especially New Horizons, is kind of a high-maintenance game. I have to constantly be babysitting it and making sure that even when I'm not recording something, that I'm constantly playing it so that progress is moving along naturally, so that this episodic format that I want to stick to actually goes according to plan. And it has been, but man, has it been a lot of work. And I think I'm just ready to move on in a sense, which I still can't. I have to probably babysit this game in a sense for the next several months, which is something I don't think I was fully equipped for, but at least not to the extent that I was this past month. I'm not having to devote 4 or 5 hours a day every single day of the month just to make sure that this Let's Play goes smoothly. Now it's more like 30 minutes a day to an hour tops, and that's about it. And it's still a lot. I mean, I still have to really pay attention to the game, unfortunately, but it shouldn't be as bad. And all of that is to say that, man, February wiped me out. It really, really did. But at least Animal Crossing New Horizons is on track, which is good. I can now start moving on to other things. And as we get into March, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm actually going to be changing here soon. And I also want to go over some other changes that I would like to possibly make here soon. But we'll talk about that more towards the end of the episode. I'll just start, and I want to keep this quick. We're already 4 minutes into this Let's Talk. I would like to keep this another 20 minutes if I can, so I'm going to try to go through everything as quickly and snappy as I possibly can, because I actually got stuff to record as soon as this is done. First things first, I did get started on Mario Party 3 last month. That was pretty much the only other thing I recorded besides Animal Crossing, and I'm about halfway done with that. I'm hoping to finish it this week, the week that you guys are getting this episode. Obviously, Mario Party 3 isn't going to be for a little while. If you guys saw, and actually we should probably refer to that schedule before I say anything else. But if you saw the schedule, I posted it, like, just like I do every single month. Posted the schedule up on the community tab on my channel. March schedule is out, and you're probably getting this Let's Talk either on the 5th or the 6th. It might be a little later than that, honestly. But this week, Poke Park 2 is ending. Thursday is the finale. Then we're moving back into Pokemon White. All of that is done and recorded. It's not like I have to worry about any of that. Mario Party 2 is ending this month as well on Saturday the 30th. And then we're going to be moving into 2 secret games that I don't want to talk about just yet. And I say 2 because they're going to be back-to-back, like really quick. The first one is, I think, 3 episodes, and then the second one is like 5 episodes. So they're both really short games. After that, then we're going to be moving on into Mario Party 3. Mario Kart 8 still going strong. That ended up being quite a long Let's Play in retrospect. That's not going to end until May. And then we've got Destiny 2, which we're still going through the Shadowkeep expansion. That's going to be a little while. Shadowkeep in and of itself is meatier than the Forsaken stuff, or at least more so than the Forsaken stuff that I've recorded for this Let's Play since its return. Because technically, some of that stuff got recorded years back when I went through the Forsaken campaign. So it's not entirely truthful that Shadowkeep is necessarily a bigger expansion. There's just more videos involved with it than with Forsaken, at least this year. So that's going to be going for a little while, about through May as well. Then we'll be heading on into Beyond Light. And we'll talk about Friday and variety content in a minute, but I've got a few up there. We got Donut County, which came out last week, Stretch Panic for this week, then we got Cocoon, and then Ninja 5.0, which I think is hilarious because not 2 weeks after I recorded that episode, they announced that they are going to be re-releasing it, which is, it makes sense why they are, because it is one of the most expensive, hard-to-find Game Boy Advance games in the world, and that is exactly why I covered it. I wanted to feature it on the Collector's Corner, but I guess they realized that as well about the same time and went, maybe we should re-release this so that people can actually play it, because guess what? It's actually a really good game. So I understand why they did it. I just think it's funny that it's like right after I recorded that episode. And I'm sure a lot of comments are going to get on the video like, hey, did you know this is coming out? So, yes, I know. I'm aware, but I didn't know that when I recorded it because it hadn't yet been announced. And then we're getting Chia at the end of the month, and we'll talk about that one in a little bit as well when I get into variety more later. So my plans for working on stuff this month is, like I said, I'm going to finish Mario Party 3 this week. This is also the week that I'm going to be recording Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, which I announced in the preview video for this year. That is going to be a very straightforward Let's Play. I'm hoping it should get done just this week, because I am not going to be going into the end game for that one at all. We are going to go pretty much till credits roll. I think I'll do like a brief, technically a bonus episode where I explain the end game, but we're not going to really touch it because I hate Rescue Team's end game vehemently. I love the game up to the point that the end, like up to the end of the story, but everything else I can't stand, and it's because of how ridiculously tedious it is. It's basically like, hey, you liked the formula you were experiencing in the story, we're going to crank that up to 11 and then also give you like 20 more dungeons that you have to get through. Good luck collecting them all, when that wasn't even a focal point in the slightest before the end game. So it's almost as if you are starting from scratch once the end game hits, and it's just way too much to handle. No way I'm going to be doing that for the Let's Play, because I would rather this be like 20 to 30 episodes, not 100, if that makes sense. Next week, after this, next week I am going to be working on actually 2 games that you guys aren't going to be seeing for a very long time, so I'm actually going to keep those a secret, both of which are actually going to follow up after Mario Party 3, so those will be going well into summer and fall and whatnot. So why do I have those on the schedule so early? I'm genuinely questioning myself. Why is that the plan for next? I don't know. I'm going to still try to get it done, but that seems a little bit early. Whatever. All right. The other thing that I'm going to be focusing on for this month, and this is going to bleed into April, is going to be the rest of Destiny 2. And by when I say the rest of Destiny 2, I mean this past year of Destiny 2. The Lightfall expansion and all 4 of its following seasons. Season of, what was it? Season of the Defiant, Season of the Deep, Season of the Witch, and then Season of the Wish, which is what we are currently in right now. I'm going to be going through all of that stuff, which that's going to be extremely extensive. That's going to take me weeks to record all of that, just because there's so much of it. all in preparation for the final shape, which comes out later this summer. But that's going to be the main focal point of the month, but I'm going to at least have some variety in there. Of course, with all of that said, Animal Crossing is still going to be recorded here and there every single week for the next several, like, I'm talking months. Seriously, several months. And to go back to Animal Crossing, let me just kind of explain how this is going to work. Animal Crossing New Horizons is not going to be a day and date episode goes up on the day of when it's not going to go up the same day, essentially. So, like, if I put out an Animal Crossing episode on, let's say, August 18th, it's not going to be August 18th in the game. Does that make sense? This is not going to be your typical Animal Crossing, oh, let's play, let's enjoy our island every single day, let's play, which I don't even know if people still do those very much anymore, but they were certainly very common back in the day when people were focusing on games like City Folk and New Leaf and Wild World and even the original Animal Crossing. So I don't really know how people, or even if people do a whole lot of Let's Plays of New Horizons anymore, but I'm not going to be doing that. This is going to be a purely episodic format, much like I do any other Let's Play. I am going to be basically, I'm going one day at a time, but I'm doing it in a sense that makes sense for progression. So, because New Horizons is actually somewhat linear in the way that you progress throughout the game up to a point, this actually allows me to take it a day at a time. I'm not generally going to be skipping any days, at least for the first little while, as we get through the tutorial phase for the game. And then once we get into what is technically the end game of New Horizons, where you're totally loosed upon the game and you can do absolutely whatever you want, that is when we're going to be start jumping ahead through dates, because what I want to do is I want to record basically about a year and a half's worth of time on an island. And like I said, there's a lot of dates. We're not going to do, 450 episodes. That's not happening. No, it's going to probably be closer to about 80 or 90 episodes. It's just going to be a lot of skipping towards the second half of the Let's Play as we move and try to hit all of the most important dates. Like, I'm trying not to skip any major events. I still want to show a lot of that stuff, but I want to show the island sort of progressing naturally over the course of all that time. And hopefully it'll all make sense when it comes out. It requires me to still engage with the game every single day to make that happen, at least from a bare minimum standpoint, because of things like Nook Miles and because of things like flower breeding and all these other things that you do need to check your island every single day to do. And I basically have to give the game the full treatment that I did way back in 2020 with my own island back then, and make sure that I experience everything the game has to offer, not to mention all of the 2.0 and the DLC stuff. And yeah, it's a big Let's Play. It's a lot bigger than I was expecting it to be. So I am going to be giving myself a little bit of a break for the rest of the year, as I'm mostly going to record some pretty low-key stuff. Like, even Destiny Lightfall stuff is pretty straightforward. Like, it's a lot of videos to make, but they're not hard to make, if that makes sense. It's very easy to sit down with Destiny, turn it on, play a mission, and then that's an episode. Like, it doesn't require a whole lot out of me. And honestly, everything else I'm going to be working on for the next few months is going to be pretty simple. With that said, though, back to the subject of Pokemon for a moment before I get into the last thing I want to talk about today. I've been going kind of back and forth on how I want to handle the Pokemon, what Pokemon games I want to cover here after Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. Originally, I was going to jump into Pokemon Coliseum, and then I decided, you know what, maybe I should save that for later. How about instead we jump into the next Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game right after the fact? And I've been kind of flip-flopping, and I think what I want to do, actually, and this is all because I have to plan it around the release date of Pokemon White 2, which I intend to hit as close as I possibly can to 2 years to the date after the start of the first Pokemon White, because chronologically, that makes sense. However, there's going to be a lot of dead air between Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX and Pokemon White 2. I got to fill it with something, and as much as I could just kind of try my hand at all sorts of Pokemon spin-offs, I could go maybe look at Pokemon Ranger, I could maybe go look at Pokemon Conquest, I could do Coliseum, I mean, pinball, trading card game, whatever. There are a ton of things I could do. but none of them really are clicking with me all that much, at least not at this exact moment. Pokepark was kind of the one that it was like, okay, we're going to really devote time to this, and the second game in particular, I really did. I 100%ed it. But now that that's over, I'm kind of like, you know what? I really want... I got that RPG itch again, and I certainly don't have the RPG itch that Coliseum can scratch, because, spoiler alert, I don't really like that game very much. And I don't like XD Gale of Darkness that much either. I like it significantly more than Coliseum, but I still don't think both of those games are all that great. So I do intend to cover them someday, but I really don't want to cover them right now. So what I've been thinking is, look, Pokemon Presents just happened a few days ago. We got another Pokemon Legends game on the horizon, okay? I have every intention, assuming that that game is any bit as good as Legends Arceus was, or better, I have every intention to cover that game in much the same way I did with Legends Arceus. But this game is, we can't 100% tell yet, but it is at least shaping up to be a sequel to X and Y. That said, I also feel bad about Legends Arceus kind of being the de facto Gen 4 representation on this channel, because I chickened out and didn't really want to cover Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Main reason for that is I don't have a ton of affinity with those games. I've played through Platinum about 3 times in my life, and I've played through Diamond and Pearl once. But I still don't know them nearly as well as I know Generations 1, 2, 3, and 5. Or even 6 for that matter. So a part of me is like, I want to go back and kind of amend that and maybe do Pokemon Platinum, but then another part of me is also like, maybe we should cover Pokemon X and Y before we recover the Legends game. I'm really wishy-washy right now, but it also wouldn't make sense to cover Gen 6 before we finish out Gen 5, and I know, it's all over the place. Oh, and above all else, I absolutely refuse to cover Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, because those are the worst abomination known to Pokemon fan ever. So all of this is to say that as of right now, my sights are set on either X and Y or Platinum. That's it. Not Diamond and Pearl. I will not cover those games, and I will explain extensively when we get to Platinum why I won't cover those games. But one of those two, okay? And I would like to do that before White 2. Here's the one catch. Either one, whatever I do, X and Y or Platinum, I am not going to be able to put in the same amount of editing and the same amount of time that I put into Pokemon White, and will also put into Pokemon White 2. They got special treatment. And the reason they got special treatment is because I fully maintain that Gen 5 is masterful. I think it's wonderful. And it looks like I'm not going to be able to keep to my 22-minute time limit in this Let's Talk today. I think that generation is practically perfect as far as Pokemon games are concerned. So whatever I choose between those two, between either Gen 6 or Gen 4, it's going to be much more off the cuff. It's going to be much less editing heavy. I'm probably going to do as minimalist as I possibly can, and we are just going to play through the games, and we're just going to enjoy them. I'm probably not going to go as in-depth into the end game as I did with Pokemon White, or even Pokemon Emerald for that matter. We're just going to do a Let's Play. We're going to do a very simple Let's Play where we play through the game, where we just kind of enjoy it together, and I feel like that'll at least get the monkey off my back for either one of these games. Whether I do Generation 4 just to say that I've done Generation 4, or whether I've done Generation 6 to prepare for the Legends game that I'm hoping turns out great so that I can play it, and it's, I don't know, I'm hoping it at least scratches the itch that Legends Arceus did in some way. I really vibe with the idea of a different take on the Pokemon formula that's still an RPG to an extent, and Legends Arceus in so many ways scratched that itch outside of just the story, but I've already gone into that in great detail. That was my only gripe with that game. Everything else was excellent, and if the next Legends game hits that, okay, I would like to be ready for that and cover X and Y first, but who knows? At the same time, maybe it won't even matter. Maybe they will be so independent of each other that, I mean, much like Legends Arceus was with Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, that it won't be a really huge deal if I cover Legends first and then X and Y later. We'll see. Long story short, after Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, we're going back into RPG land, we're going back to a main series game, and we're doing it before Pokemon White 2. All right, let's talk about one more thing before I close this Let's Talk out, and I will try to keep this under 10 minutes. If I cross 30 minutes, I'm going to be mad at myself here. Variety content. Variety content has been by far the most hit or miss stuff that I have made on this channel over the past little while, and I haven't been keeping at it for too terribly long. I mean, I've been going variety content for what, a little over 2 years now, and it's been incredibly inconsistent. I mean, I've tried so many different things with it. We've got the 3 series, games I remember, obviously games I've grown up on that I don't necessarily want to make it to full Let's Plays, although some of them did turn out that way. We've got I've Always Wanted to Try, which are games that are basically on my backlog that I've always been really interested in, and I'm finally getting a look at, and some of those turned into longer series too, looking at Kena Brood of Spirits and Outer Wilds and things of that nature. And I've also, you know, just stuck with the Let's Have a Look At, which those rarely turn into longer videos. Those are usually just singular stuff. But I've been really trying to stick to the new game every single week formula for the past several months, and it's been going fine, but they're not just inconsistent in terms of my execution. They've also been inconsistent in view counts, for one, and 2, they are also inconsistent in terms of the amount of time, risk, and reward that I have to put into these videos. So first things, let's talk about view count really quickly, and I'll just go over this briefly because generally I don't care about views very much. However, I do care when I put out certain variety videos and they literally get 1 view. Like, the week before, I got one that had 150 views in the span of a couple of hours, and then the next week I put one out and it's got, I kid you not, 1 view. Now, I'm happy for the one person that enjoyed that video, but when I think back to the fact that the next day, a Mario Party episode goes up, and that's going to get 40 views, and that took me 20 minutes to make, 30 minutes to make tops. And I think about that variety video, and that was more of an hour and a half, 2-hour struggle. Not to mention, a lot of variety videos I make don't really pan out all that well. I have actually made several variety videos, recorded several games in the variety series that I never released the video for because I wasn't happy with the way they turned out. Whether it was because the game was so alien to me or just so awful that I couldn't even stomach it for the 20 to 30 minute runtime, or I was just so bad at it that I was just like, I'm not even doing anything productive here, and I just deleted the video because I was like, you know what, this isn't going to help anybody. Republic Commando was almost that, by the way. I should mention that. That was a great example of something that nearly fit that criteria. And there have been other games as well. Most of the ones this month were pretty good. I'd say Ninja 5.0. I struggled with that one as well. But Chia, Cocoon, Stretch Panic, Donut County, those all went relatively well, I think. And regardless, a lot of times variety videos take a long time for me to make. I usually have to sit down, okay, with variety videos, and especially because they are spread across so many different systems, I have to constantly change my recording setup when I'm making these videos, whether I have to move to my computer or move back to my console, or I have to bring in an old game console from the other room and set that up just to make this happen. And because of that, I try to record a lot of games off of the same system in chunks, but I want that to not really necessarily translate to the video upload schedule either, so then I have to, let's say I record 5 PS2 games, right? I don't want to then upload those 5 videos in a row because that would get tedious, that would get boring. People don't want to see just 5 PS2 games in a row. Like, don't get me wrong, PS2 has a great amount of variety in its library, but I'm sure people will get kind of bored and be like, oh, is this a PS2 channel now? No, I want to throw all sorts of things at the wall. So like just this month, for instance, Donut County, I recorded that on the Switch. Stretch Panic, that's a PS2 game. Cocoon, I recorded that on PS5. Ninja 5.0, that's a Game Boy Advance game. Chia, also PS5. I try to spread things out a lot, but I can't do that too much because I'm also recording everything in chunks because, again, I have to change my setup every single time I switch to a different system, and that gets really frustrating, and that's a lot of work. And not to mention, a lot of times when I record a game, I'll do kind of almost like a 20-minute practice recording before I realize, okay, this is either not working out or I need to switch things up, or at least I need to have at least a little more knowledge going into this because this is so alien to me, and then start over from scratch, and that takes up time as well. So just as an example, if I were to take all 5 videos that I recorded for this month, that's probably a 6 to 7 to even 8-hour commitment to make those 5 videos. You want to know how long it took me to record the 5 Mario Party 2 episodes you guys are getting this month? 2.5 hours in comparison. That's it. And that's, you know, those are longer than normal episodes. Destiny, those 8 episodes you guys are getting this month, that was probably 3 hours tops. I mean, the amount of effort I have to put in versus the reward I get out of it with variety is typically the most frustrating. And I want to continue the spirit of variety. I really genuinely do, but I don't know if this is necessarily working for me. Now, I have videos scheduled through April at the moment. I do have one scheduled for May, but I think I might not release that episode for certain reasons. Might talk about that a little bit later. But I'm thinking that once I run out of these videos, I might change things up again with the Friday uploads and sort of kind of going back to what I was doing a couple of years ago, where I was putting these, obviously with a different time slot, but kind of like what I did with Greg Hastings Tournament Paintball or Kena Bridge of Spirits or Outer Wilds, where I just took the game and ran with it for a while, or even all the way through to completion. But a lot of the games that we've looked at in the Variety Series thus far make for a good springboard. For instance, 2 games that I'm doing this month, Cocoon and Chia in particular, I really want to finish both of those games. And what better way than to do a full playthrough of them? I think that would be great. There are some other games that I have not yet looked in the Variety Series that I would also like to do, and I'm thinking about sort of reframing this. Maybe sticking with the I've always wanted to try series more than anything, because I feel like those make for the best videos, and generally those games are the best. I've only been burned by maybe 2 or 3 games in that series thus far. For the most part, I've been on board with almost every single one I've played. And so I'm thinking it's time maybe we make Fridays into variety stuff again, but it's going to just be another playthrough slot. This is going to be another time where we go through something that's going to be a blind playthrough. Like, it's not going to be a game I have any history with. It's going to be something I'm experiencing for the first time, but that separates it from everything else on the schedule, because Sunday and Wednesday is the primary Let's Play. Tuesday is the secondary Let's Play. Monday and Thursday is always Pokemon, and Saturday is absolutely everything else. So Friday kind of fits the bill as this is the day where I'm going to be looking at a game that I've never played before, and I'm just going to be going through it blind, and it's always going to be something that I, at least initially, thought was going to be extremely interesting. If it ever loses that luster, we cut it off. We don't have to continue. Again, Outer Wilds being a great example. Not that I didn't enjoy that game, by the way. I want to clarify that. It was more so that I just felt really aimless with it, and like the videos themselves weren't going anywhere, and I was trying to push so hard to progress that I was ruining my own experience with the game. That's why I dropped that one, for instance, but that's just a good example of a series that we just kind of cut off at a certain point and didn't necessarily finish. And so that might happen occasionally, might happen with Cocoon, might happen with Chia, might happen with Disco Elysium, might happen with another game that I really want to look at here soon is called Pacific Drive, which just came out in the last month or so. And yeah, what I'm saying might happen with some of those. We never know. But it's going to be an opportunity for me to spend several weeks on a singular game before moving on to the next one. And there can just be a bit more mixing it up and flip-flopping around. And not to mention, these should generally be shorter series, much like my Saturday stuff, where we're looking at games that won't last too long, or at the very least, I won't be covering extensively. It'll just be like a bare minimum playthrough. We just go through it, and once we see the credits, we're done. And I think that would make for a better use of my time as well as your guys' time. So let me know what you think of that. If you made it this far into the video, let me know what you think of possibly changing that up. If you really want me to keep things the way they are, sure, I absolutely can, but it is starting to drain me a little bit making these variety videos, just because I can't really get super far ahead on these, so they're the ones that are kind of holding me back from making the most progress on videos. And so I don't know, I'm just trying to look for another solution. I think it's also just the fact that these last couple months have drained me, particularly this past month. So maybe I'm just like feeling all lukewarm, and I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind later on. I'm so wishy-washy with these, but this is the most flexible day for a reason. There's a reason I like to change things up so much with it, and it's been fun, don't get me wrong, but I would like to see something different happen, because I am sort of losing my mind with these variety videos, as well as trying to keep up with everything else. So with all that said, guys, that is going to be it for this one. Didn't make it to 30 minutes, thank goodness, but this did end up going longer than I would have liked. Oh, yeah. Every Let's Talk does. With all that said, I will see you guys all in the next one.